Welcome. I am Dr. Patrice Berry, licensed psychologist, and I have a very special guest today, my mom, Johnnie Lloyd. And you all asked for this video. I have received so many questions because in my videos, I talk about my relationship with my mom and just how things were growing up. And y'all had a lot of questions about how does she feel hearing me talk about just how I might be doing some things different from how she does things. And we specifically want to talk about healing attachment wounds and tips for the cycle breaker because I think this can be a healing experience because everyone will not have the experience I've had with my mom. So, with my mom, I have had the pleasure of when I have given her feedback on just how things were, she's never been like, that didn't happen. Or like she's never gotten defensive. She's never gotten angry at me, and I'm sure she's had her own emotions, so I'd love for her to talk us through this. So first, Mama, if you could just give just your short introduction, and then you can go right into the topic.
Okay, so I am Johnny with Johnnie Lloyd and Associates. I am the number one thing I'm so excited about is being Patrice's mom and being my grandson's Gigi because that's really amazing. Family means a lot to me. So I am a consultant, but first and foremost, I actually am a speaker. So I speak on mindset transformation. So that is the big thing. I am certified in neuro, which is brain health and brain change because transformation is different than change. And I want to know the gap, how to help people fill the gap. So that's what I do. I'm going and an author and all that stuff. But she said the short version. So being obedient.
So, I before my mom goes into how she's felt, I just want to give a little bit of the backstory. So, my mom decided to divorce my father when she was pregnant with me. And this was in the 80s, the early 80s. And at that time, divorce wasn't quite as common, I don't think, especially within um, yeah, like it wasn't as common, and it cost her financially. And my mother has always been a business person and a go-getter, and I think part of the reason why she parented me the way that she did was out of fear that her choice to like leave my dad and it to be because there were all these myths about like a single parent home and like, oh, like your kid's gonna have issues. If you get divorced, you're gonna mess up your kid. And I think she was really committed to me being okay and to like for me to have values and character, and, I think that was really important to her, and I'm gonna give her the mic right now, this like
Wow,
awkward.
that's a great segue, actually. So when I got the divorce, and when I decided to get the divorce, it was interesting that the decision was because of Patrice. I could not, and it's not when I say
In a
that,
good
I'm
way.
saying
It's a
not
good
saying
way.
it was her fault.
Yeah.
I'm saying it was I didn't have the strength to do it on my own because it was so taboo. So, what was expected sometimes from us and people from the outside looking in would never have said, "Why are you divorcing this guy? I mean, you get a new car every year, you had built a house, you got all this stuff." But it takes more in life than stuff. However, let's go to the real issue. The real issue is I came from parents that were married for over 30 some years. Then my grandparents were married almost 60 years. So all of the people in my family that were married were still married. And I'm the child that everybody thought great things of, and I was getting a divorce. So it was really hard. Other key for me, though, and Patrice talked about the fact that I'm a go getter. I've always been like that. However, it put pressure self-imposed pressure on me to say she's not going to lack for anything. We'll never be in the situation we were then because we ended up being homeless. Let me put it out there. I had a degree, I had all this special training, blah, 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 working for I had a great job, all of that. But we were sleeping on somebody else's floor. So, and I remember it, orange shag carpet, right? So I'm sleeping on somebody else's floor. And what I promised myself, and we have to be careful of this, was
Yeah.
from a place of pain. I said, this will never happen to me again. This will never happen to us again because I felt like I was stepping into what people said I would step into. I would never make it on my own. All of those things that people in church, I want to stress this, in church and outside of church were saying. Even my boss that I was working for, he threatened me that if I didn't go back to my husband, that he would not extend my medical sick leave.
Yeah.
That's how I ended up homeless. So that's part of the backstory
Yeah.
of, because anytime we're in a situation where we're fearing things, we typically don't do the balance. We end up going all the way to the left, all the way to the right. We end up going beyond just to make sure that we're okay. And we, at some point, we have to find balance.
Yeah. Yeah. And, everybody is like, "What?" Like, somebody and I don't think I had heard that portion of the story before, and
Which
so
part?
the part
Which part?
of the boss so I think you had mentioned the boss threatening to like, wanting you to go back to your marriage, and this is a person that had, like, no skin in the game for your relationship, like, my marital status should be none of your business, but the fact that you made that decision and that you did that, and you did parent me better than you were parented.
Yeah. And the thing I would say is parenting is a relative. What Patrice said something earlier, and
Mm,
I want us to all put our arms around it. She said, I don't look at the way she parents and start doing judgmental and blah, 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 all of that. There's a reason. I didn't deliver no baby. I was in the room, but I was not on the table. You get what I'm saying? So I trust her. And because of my faith, I trust the value and the mission, vision, and purpose that both her and my grandson and my son-in-law have.
yeah,
So there's a lot of things that can happen, and so I respect Patrice. Okay, so I know somebody on the left side is probably saying, "Does she agree with everything Patrice does?"
no,
Heck to the no,
no.
no, no. However, this is what I will say. My parents parented me the best way they knew how. There were 7 of us. They parented us the best way they knew how. There was a lot of dynamics. However, back then, respect was
Man
physical.
yeah, yeah.
It was
And
physical,
mandatory. Does that make sense? Like,
mandatory
there
breathing.
was no amount of, like, teenage attitude that was acceptable, like, 0. Like, there was no amount
No.
that was acceptable.
And in my household, okay, I'm gonna make this statement. Don't tell your children this ever.
Please don't.
I'm going
You'll
Patricia
end up in
said,
the guidance
listen
counselor
to me.
office like I
You'll
was.
end up in CPS. Don't do this. My parents, my parents, my mother, who I love to, I mean, just to the moon and back, she said, I remember her telling people, she telling us, individually, not collectively necessarily. She said, I created you and I can make another one just like you. Don't play with me.
Did only your mother say that? Was
I
there
think my
anyone
daddy,
else?
yeah,
No, no,
my
no.
dad. Oh, I said it. Did I say it? Did I say it?
That's why I ended
Okay,
up in the
I
guidance
said it.
counselor's
But
office.
see, this is the thing about the reason that I don't look at what Patrice remembers, and I'm gonna be honest, I don't look at what Patrice remembers, um, in because my version, and I'm gonna give you an
Oh,
example. Two people in the same
yeah,
household facing back to back. looking out are not
Yeah.
seeing the same thing. They're not feeling the same thing. And you can use this in any example. You're touching, you're agreeing, right? And the two shall touch, you're touching and agreeing. However, what you see and what they see is different because we were raised different and all of that. So there's a lot of things. But let me jump all the way into the deep on this. I refuse to spank Patrice. I refuse to spank Patrice. I refuse to do anything. One minute, wait. Doctor, wait a
Until
minute, wait a minute. Until, because my parents said, "That ain't gonna work. I'm telling you, it ain't gonna, you can try, you da, da, da." She said, "Kids need whatever." Patrice didn't want for anything. That's putting it really nicely.
um,
Okay, so she did something
I fell
that
out in the I fell out.
she
I
fell
think I
out.
fell out.
She didn't get her way about something minor, and she literally, and I think it was, I don't know what it was. Anyway,
It was it
she
was
fell
it
out
was stuff we shouldn't talk
and
about
she
here.
started kicking and screaming, and I just escaped. I don't know who like,
Which
but I
is
remember
not
my
not
girlfriend,
good for
it
that's
wasn't
which
good.
I
It
wouldn't
wasn't
recommend.
healthy. It wasn't healthy. So this is the deal. I thought I had blown it.
Okay.
I thought everything that people had told me that I did wrong. So I went to the other, remember I told you to go all the way over. So then I started spanking Patrice. Because I said, okay, well, you don't understand, this. I got you. I got you. I'm going to do that. However, this is what Patrice taught me. Patrice has always been who y'all see now. She's always underneath been that. So when you look at your children, don't look at what they're not, look at what they are. So Patrice, this is what she did. I said, because she started acting, I don't know, she was doing stuff. And so this is what I say with my little intelligent self, high CEO of this, doing all these stuff, controlling basis. I would say it, you ain't gotta, you don't have to act all of this and do all of this negative. All you have to do is come to me and tell me that you're having a problem. You want to be spanked, and I'll spank you. And so one day, Patrice came to me and said that. And so, because y'all asking me, how did I deal with it? So, what ended up happening is this, because she hadn't done anything, it broke me.
You still did 2 more times after that, but
No,
I
I
don't
don't
know.
remember
Yes, you
that.
did in Germany. Yes, you
I don't
did.
remember it. I'm just gonna tell
Yes,
you,
you
I don't
did.
remember it. I,
So, but
I don't
I
remember.
wanted to I
However,
wanted to
but
focus.
let me just finish this up.
Okay,
What happened is when a child comes, it wasn't good because what I said to her wasn't good, and what we did wasn't good, and it wasn't healthy because this is what can happen when you do physical things to children is
okay,
that you break their spirit.
okay.
You harm them in places, in ways, and teach them to lash out. So that is the pieces that when I look back at it now, I look like, I coulda, shoulda, woulda. However, that has passed. So what I do now is I embrace, I support, I do all I know to do to support that journey. So part of the question was, how do I feel about Patrice talking about me? Um, when she first started it,
Oh, we haven't talked about
my
that.
my feelings were hurt
Okay,
at when she first started because what I remembered and why I did what I did kind of bubbled up, right? And so then I started judging the action and how she's now dealing with the reaction, right? And then I realized this. It doesn't take away what happened was not healthy. I'm not taking away any of that. What I do again, I'm going back to what I do now, is I support others in their journey with parenting because parenting's not easy.
yeah.
I support others in the journey of their healing because we all have stuff that we need to heal from. So I'm gonna hand it back over to Doctor.
No, and I'm glad that you shared that, and I was talking with somebody about as I work with children and when I'm working with parents, I'm very open with them that there is no such thing as a perfect parent. No parent is going to get it perfect. But when a parent messes up, the ability to come back and apologize and repair. I have heard from so many clients that my parent never apologizes. They try to justify their behavior or say, like, I had to do this because of this, and they don't have that empathy of trying to see it from the other perspective. And to me, what I think you show a lot of empathy of getting down and seeing it from my perspective, and then I also give you that same grace or that same empathy to, like, know you were doing the best that you could, and there was never any, like, oh, I there like, when you put your hands on a kid, they're gonna hate you. Like, they just are. They're gonna
They're gonna at
they're
least say it
they're gonna
out
they're
loud
gonna
and
oh,
mean
they're
it, and mean
I
it,
knew
and
I
mean it,
knew
and mean it, and mean it.
I knew not to say it out loud. There's
Well,
some
not out
but
loud to me.
mm.
So,
And,
yeah.
you're going ahead.
But I like the fact that you talk about apologies,
Mhm.
because there were things that I did early on, and there's some things that happened in our relationship that I came back and apologized. I mean, I'm talking about as a child.
Yeah,
I remember people telling me, "Why are you apologizing to her? She's a child." It's because if I don't show her that adults need to apologize,
yeah.
if when they're wrong, and I know I'm wrong, I'm going to apologize. I respect her. And because I believe, and I still believe this, that respect is not based on putting your hands on someone or screaming or hollering or anything adverse. Respect is earned. So that was part of the process of me earning her respect and earning the position, because I'm mother, but that means I birthed you, you know, but I am mama. I'm mama, and I love that. And it's not just a role. I think it's a title that you earn. I think it's loving our families is something that we do because we earn it.
And I like how Lisa points out the fact that that is the child getting respect from the adult. And that's where, because I work with a lot of kids that won't give respect to people that don't give respect to them, but no one in their life shows them any respect. And so they get very oppositional of just like, forget everyone, forget people. I hate people. Nobody's getting respect. And it's like, wait a minute. Like, and so we have to figure out ways to navigate that, but, there is a way for me to apologize and still set boundaries, still make sure to have certain, expectations. So my relationship with my mom got closer as I was an adult because the relationship shifts, and we have an old podcast episode. So if you go back to the Legacy Moments podcast, we have episodes where we talked about transitions, like how do you
Mhm.
parent adult children? Because like as an adult, I showed her very early on that I could make whatever decisions I wanted to make, that like I was on my own, and she let me know like, hey, like you're responsible for like the consequences of your actions. And I wasn't doing anything out there, but just making sure to have those boundaries, I think that can be really important. Somebody asked a good question since we did throw that story out there, and I don't know the exact answer to this. So how long were we on the shag carpet? How
Wow.
long?
One day was too long. But I'm gonna be on. I want to say
Was like
I
3
want
to
to
6
say it was like
months?
3 to
1 month?
6 months.
Yeah,
I want to say it was 3 to 6 months, because when we got off the shag carpet, we were headed to Japan.
Japan. Yeah,
Mhm.
and so my mom accepted a position in a whole other country because she knew that we would be provided housing, we would be provided everything that we needed. My bed was a double papasan chair, and I have, like to this day, I have a double papasan chair. But as she got on her feet and she got financially stable, she was able to pay off credit and do all of those things. Um she was able to have that freedom. And the thing that I'm glad that I get to give to my child is the ability to express emotions and have healthy emotions. And I don't say that because, like, my mom was raised with the idea of that blind obedience. You do what I do because I told you to do it. Like, that's and she would let me ask some questions sometimes. She so my mom always did give me a voice, which was tremendous. Um, but there were some things that and I stuck by your rules, because, like, if your rule was don't let people in my house when I'm not here, I wouldn't let people and like I would abide by that expectation and that rule. But being able to so Lisa, I was a baby. I have no memory of the shag carpet, none whatsoever.
She
I
has
was
none.
I was maybe like 8, 9 months old. Like, I was a baby. And so I have no memory of that at all. Everything I remember was us having enough to not have to worry financially. My mom was also open. So my mom was open because there would be times when because we traveled, we moved about every 5 years, and with each move, we would, like, spend, and then we would have to, like, adjust to, like, "Ooh, we spent all the money. Christmas is gonna be a little light this year," which was fine. Like, cause she would let me know, like, "Hey, just a heads up. Remember? So, like, you're wearing your Christmas gifts right now. Like, all those clothes you bought, all that fun we had, like, we're not gonna be going out to eat. Like, we're gonna have to scale things back." And it was age appropriate information, I think, but yeah.
Yeah, so, the question that came up
This one?
was really powerful. Thank you for bringing it back up, Patrice.
Mhm.
So, it was not just how long did we live on the shag carpet, it's how did I handle us
Oh,
living on the shag carpet? Because this is Patrice didn't realize there was a problem. Now she's saying she's 6 and 7 months old, but we were living on shag carpets in somebody else's home.
yeah.
Another woman that was a single mother who had 2 children. Let me tell you what they were doing. I have pictures of them on and they had Patrice in the box and they're
That was
pushing.
family. That was family? I didn't know it was their shag carpet.
It was their shag carpet.
Nice.
It ended up being
Wow.
family. It wasn't family
At
then.
first. Okay.
At first, it
Oh.
ended up being family. That's how they met. We'll talk about that on the side. Anyway, so the deal with it is that the other 2 children were pushing her and they were having a ball. So from my perspective, I was coming from a place of lack and oh my gosh, I'm not a good parent and blah blah blah. But I was keeping that internally, and it was in things like that normally hurt you internally, hurts your well-being. So, but they're having a ball. They didn't
Mhm.
realize there was a problem. Cuz I mean, it wasn't like they weren't eating, they were eating something. So we weren't talking about what we didn't have. We
Yeah.
were talking about what they could do.
Wow.
So it's mindset. Part of it is how are you as the parents looking at it? Are you always saying what you don't have? Are you giving them like Patrice just talked about? When we come back to the States, I mean, we would go, wow, we would
We
just have a
did.
ball. And then again, I told her, I didn't tell her we were broke. I didn't tell her we didn't have, matter of fact, one time I told somebody I have money. She said, you got money. You always have money. And it's true. I always do. However, the deal is that I was honest enough with her to let her know the ramifications of our decisions. So we're going to have fun now. We're going to enjoy going out and doing all this wonderfulness. However, you're wearing your school clothes, you're wearing your Christmas, you're doing all that. And she said, "Okay. Okay. I mean, cuz I not only said it, but I supported the decision I said."
Wow. Wow. Wow.
Oh,
That
something come
is
up, but
no, and so I'm gonna try to see okay, wait a minute. I think I'm gonna try to show just for the people that are live, y'all will see this, or the people watching on replay. Did it show up?
Yeah,
Ah,
oh, that is
everybody.
the you see, that she wasn't 6
There
months, she
you
was a little
go.
bit older than that, but this is her. That is the carpet that we were sleeping on. This is the house that we were staying in, and again, look at her face. She's thinking this
Um,
is a game. They're having a ball. And so part of it is what are we saying? What are we doing? Because she has her little thing in her hand. She's happy. She's happy. And that's the
Wow.
key. The key is too, is that when we went to Okinawa, she's talking about she slept in the papasan chair. I mean, it was her and my sister that slept in the papasan chair, and I slept in a chair because we didn't have beds. So I slept in a chair. I was a lot younger, y'all. So anyway, I slept in a chair and they slept in the papasan chair because there are things that we support our kids or our children on. However, it was just driving me to do better, to be better. I ended up for the question on the left side of the room, what did she end up? I ended up in three C-suite level executive positions. We've traveled the world. I've managed billions of dollars, all of that. Um,
She means
yeah, she
billions
is
with a
the
B.
word.
She
B
means
with the
billions with a B.
B, billions. I've managed billions of dollars. However, it's not where you start
Mhm.
as a parent. It's not where you start as a person. It's where are you going? So as a parent, even if I make a mistake today,
Yeah,
and you will, if you find out it's not working, find out what does work. Like Patrice, spanking never worked for her, but removing certain things that she wanted,
that's what
now
works
you
for
talking
for
about
your
serious,
grandson too.
that works.
I wanted to talk through real quick because
Oh,
there
good.
are 4 types of inner child wounds, and these pictures, the pictures that I'm gonna share, they are on the community tab, and so there is an abandonment wound where and so these are just general, so this is just general information. This will not apply to everyone. This is just general information that some people can feel abandoned, and that's where they feel left out. Fears of being left, hating being alone. This is where some codependence or connecting with people where I'm trying to fix and save them, and that's kind of the nature of that relationship. um, threatening to leave, but not leaving, and then often attracting emotionally immature partners. And for each one of these wounds, there are things you can do to heal. There's a guilt wound where a person feels bad or says sorry a lot. And I've worked with people where we've talked about turning the I'm sorries into thank you. So instead of I'm sorry for being late, saying thank you for waiting for me. Somebody with a guilt wound might be hyper independent and not ask for help. Someone with their own guilt wound might use guilt to manipulate, and that's where some parents parent out of guilt and shame, like, "Oh, you don't wanna go get me water? Like, if you don't get me water, I'm gonna die of thirst." And it's like, "Wait, I can still there's a way I can encourage my child to do an activity without having to weaponize shame or guilt." um, not setting boundaries, and then attracting people that also make them feel guilty. There can be a trust wound, and these wounds are real. These wounds are because of things that have happened. This is because of life experiences. So, the trust wound is an individual who's afraid of being hurt, doesn't trust themselves or others, often feels insecure and seeks external validation, doesn't feel safe. And we always remember that safety is a feeling. I can physically be safe and not feel safe. And then that wound can attract unsafe people. And that's not intentional. So this isn't something the person is doing on purpose. It's just this pattern that continues until we heal. a neglect wound. And so that's an individual that struggles with letting things go, might struggle with low self esteem. They might get angry easily. They might struggle with saying no, and then also being told no. They might fear vulnerability, and then they might attract people that make them feel unappreciated or unseen. And I've seen individuals that have had multiple types of wounding because of complex trauma, because of a lot of things that they've been through. And Mama, anything you wanted to say about those?
Yeah,
Mhm,
the one thing that I'll say is all of those are real. And what I would encourage people to do is when they feel them, whatever the situation, when you feel it, connect it if you can
mhm,
to an incident potentially, and then work out or deal with the incident. And I'm going to talk about me. There are some wounds that I have felt that
mhm,
I went back and I dealt with it. It didn't
mhm,
say I sat in it, I sat on it, and then I reframed some of the things that happened, and I talked about what serves me for my future, because there's some things we learn that serves us for our future, and
mhm.
there's some things we need to forgive and then deal with, get help, because we need help. So get help, and then move forward. Will some things trigger us? Absolutely. So something can go and happen in our life that triggers something else. So just, know that, and how you can address them. uh, just a couple things before Patrice talk about all these wonderful things on here is some of the things for breakers to break a cycle. Some of the things I've done is playfulness, to enjoy, to do gratitude journals, um, to talk about my sensory, what I was just saying, my sensory perception. What am I feeling right now? And connect my heart and my head,
Mm.
because my head is where I'm thinking logically, right? But my heart is where my feelings reside typically. And Dr. Berry would tell me if I'm out. She'll tell me
No,
if
no,
I'm
that's
wrong.
good.
But typically where I am. However, remember that in so many cases, people think of the second brain as the heart,
Mm.
because it has over 40,000 sensors in it. And when there's things that happen and we feel it here, and we're trying to make logic of it. But when you start feeling it here, think about it or sit on it, or, embrace, deal with it.
'Cause sometimes we wanna run from it, and so that's
Yeah.
why I like uncovering and talking about these things, because if I have a wound, if I keep it covered and it never is exposed to air, then it's not gonna heal. But I don't want to have it open all the time to the elements, and I because then it can get infected. And so I
Mhm.
think there's a way to treat it. And then Mama said forgiveness, and I have a video on because is forgiveness required to heal? Because my view on forgiveness is that some people are more comfortable with the word detaching from the incident or the person, or like breaking from the emotions, and being free. So whatever happened, that it doesn't have to hold me back. It doesn't have to like change, that I can still be successful, I can still move forward, uh, because of or in spite of what happened. And that's where we talk about building resilience. And someone mentioned feeling things in their stomach and where you physically feel things. So there is a book. People have mixed feelings about it. It can be a bit triggering. I've mentioned it before, but it's The Body Keeps the Score. Just how the things that we go through, even if in my head, because I've had people come in and say, "Oh, I had a good childhood," and I'm like, like, "So tell me." And they're like, "Oh, but I don't have any memories before 16." And it's like,
Mm.
"Ooh." And then we start, "Oh, wait a minute, things were kinda chaotic. There was a lot that was happening. There was." And then we dig a little deeper, and there's a lot more there. But, just some general tips to address that abandonment wound is when that button gets triggered, because that abandonment wound could be triggered because a friend changed plans. Like, we were planning to meet up and then now they can't meet. And if I have a history of being abandoned by somebody else, that past history can come in to this present moment. And so I want to take a step back to be like, now if a friend, if we're out somewhere and we all came together and they literally leave me, like that's not like, yes, you did leave me. And that's, I would have an issue with that friend if they behaved in that way. And so none of this is meant to minimize an experience, but perception is so important. And mama, I like that example you gave of sometimes, even we don't have to be back to back, we can be face to face looking at the same thing, and different people are going to focus on different things. So in your image, some people might be looking at the picture, some people might love the lamps, some people might love your glasses. Like, we're both looking at the same thing, but people might focus on a different aspect. And so I think that's key. That guilt wound, I want to avoid thinking that I have to rescue everyone and set healthy boundaries. So, and my thing with that is allowing people to be mad at me. I think that guilt wound, I did not like for people to be upset, which can be like that's all, you're not a sociopath. Like, it's good to not want people to be upset, but that it's not my job to protect them from their emotions. It is not my job. So recently, a friend invited me to a 6 p.m. birthday party all the way in Virginia Beach. And I'm like, nope, like, no way. I love you. I care about you. I'll meet with, but like, I know that's, and the friends feel it, to my knowledge, like their feelings weren't like incredibly hurt or anything like that. But that it's not my job to protect other people from disappointment, even my child. So some people try to do that with their children as well, where they won't tell them the age appropriate truth. And
Mm.
that's one of the things that I think can be difficult, because I think it's normal for a parent to try to protect their child from pain, and yet there's a way where I'm also not gonna lie to them. And so if if I have a co-parent that isn't consistent, what I might do is not tell my child that the person's coming because they might cancel at the last minute, and if they do, then my child isn't disappointed, but I'm not going to buy them extra gifts and say they're from the other person. I am not going to protect my child. It's not like, it's not that I'm not gonna protect them. I am, because if the child then later finds out that all the things I did was faking, pretending I was the other person, that can sometimes break the trust my child has in me. And it can create this illusion where, like, they now, this what they've made this other parent out to be in their mind, they now have to come to grips with, "Oh, no, like, wow, they they didn't call on my birthday," or like a person can come to grips with a lot of that, and that can be really, really hard.
Can we pause right there,
Let's
Patrice,
pause.
just for a sec? And this is kind of off center, but it's right in the center. I love what you talked about when you're co-parenting, that kind of thing. So what I'm going to encourage people to say is that my pain with Patrice's, as an example, I like using me as an example. My pain and my issue with her father was between me and him. So I did not go after him when it came to her because I had this feeling. I said, if I, and this is me, I said, if I said all of those things, he's going to come up and he'll be a knight in shining armor and I'll look like a liar.
Yeah.
So, or he'll look like whatever and I'm going to still look like a liar. It'll be a trust factor. So I let her build, grow. I let them deal with that. And then for holidays, until he started sending things, because we were in other countries, then what I would do is take the resources that he sent and I would purchase things and put his name on it. And I said that happened with the money that he sent. I didn't tell her he sent it because that would be a lie. But it happened with the money he sent. Because my thing is that so many times um we get triggered by things that happen. Like there's some things Patrice will tell you. There's some things that she did. She said, "Why didn't you tell me he does that?" She said, "How could you sit around and know that he did that?" And I
And
was
I
just
do it
like
too.
him. And I'm just like him. And I thought, yeah. But it wasn't about her. So it's me separating and me embracing and me knowing that it took both of us to create this amazing person that both of us love differently. But so just keep that in mind. Love is something I give. It's not
Mhm.
something I create.
I love that. And, I was gonna try to look up, a picture of my dad because and I was gonna maybe try to do a poll for but once I showed the picture,
I can tell you.
so, because often people will be like, "Oh my gosh, you look just
You
like
look
your
just like
mom."
your mother.
And I'm
And I'd
like,
be like,
"You
thank
have
you.
never met you've never seen my dad." So with the betrayal wound, that is because this is going back to trust. And there are lots of great videos on YouTube about betrayal. And because sometimes this doesn't just happen in childhood, this can happen in relationships. And and if things happen in a relationship, often people jump to blaming themselves immediately. And within a marriage, I can't carry both sides of it. I can only carry one of it. Yes. The book, The Body Keeps the Score, there are triggering things. So like I think it describes certain types of harm and all of that. And so some people have found this book to be triggering. There is another book by that talks about childhood experience negative it was the Aces book. Nadine, I want to say her name was Nadine. The Deepest Well: Healing the Long-Term Effects of Childhood Adversity. That is another book that some people have found helpful. Over in my Amazon list, I have a ton of self-help books, some of my favorites. The list might be too long and I might have to separate it by like trauma, parent, like I might have to separate some of the things out because right now the list is really, really long. Okay. Great question. What's the line between being honest and not trashing the person? And so I think there's a difference between so I don't want to say your dad isn't consistent. Does that make sense? So like that would be trash talking the person. I don't want to say like your dad only I don't because sometimes the parent is spewing their own pain about the situation onto their child, but almost in a way for emotional support for the adult. And so you want to be really careful with that. So my mom never spoke negatively of my dad, and every parent does the best they can. Um, uh, um, and My dad is who he is, and I absolutely love him. Uh, and I had to accept that he is who he is, and that was my journey. My mom couldn't help me with that. And the example I give for that is my dad is an orange, and I desperately want apples,
That's
both
good.
fruits, but I desperately want apples. He's never going to be an apple. But I can appreciate him for being an orange. And so that's where sometimes in some relationships, it's accepting who the person is. And that's a journey the child has to go on. And I think doing it with a therapist, if you start to see that the relationship with the with the co-parent is having an impact on the child, getting them into some therapy. If you are parenting with an antagonistic person, maybe with
Mm.
some like narcissistic traits or anything like that, getting them into therapy. So I've helped teach clients how to how to cope with having the parent that they have. And that's based on what the child is telling me and the child's experience and not the parent's experience. And as a therapist, I can tell. So, like, the way that children talk about things and the way adults talk about things are very different. And so you want to make sure that they're not even in earshot of you
Mm.
speaking negatively about, because so kids are nosy. Kids are really, really nosy. I will never forget one of my best friends growing up, and I didn't tell my mom this until I was an adult. They used to fight like cats and dogs, right? And I heard I heard a lot of it. I knew way too much, but like so I think their children didn't, but like the room I was sleeping in, I heard a lot of what was going on. And so you just want to be very, very careful. And
The
Lisa,
thing
you
that I would
said,
like to yeah, go ahead, go ahead.
if a person is potentially harmful, that's when you want to consult with a lawyer. You want to get a therapist. You want to make sure that things are being documented, and then because there might have to be like a CPS report, like if something is harmful. Emotional abuse is incredibly hard to prove, and so in most cases, emotional abuse is n so, like, it's weird that parents are allowed to, like, call their children's names, and, like, so as a therapist, I know that's harmful. Like, if a parent is saying, "Oh, you're so stupid," or "You're so this," or "You're so that," I know that's harmful, but is that a reason for that parent to not have contact with their child? Like, there's a legal threshold in every state, and it can get really, really messy. And so that's where I think having a neutral person talk with the child, assess it, and if it is, things are appropriately reported. That's where things go from there. Children can be trauma bonded to antagonistic parents, and I've worked with kiddos like that, where they had because they were kind of the golden child that reflected positively on the oh my gosh, I can't say that word, antagonistic person. And so there would be times when that person would be nice to them, but then there would be times that that person would try to use that child to manipulate situations. So that's where teaching that child boundaries was, or those children, people in those situations, boundaries can be really, really helpful. And so that is where we will leave that. Did you have something?
Yeah, the only thing I was gonna mention is 2 things, is if our children come back from a visit to the co-parent and they start saying things that maybe they heard at the co-parent's home, we have to be careful not to be
React.
triggered by that to immediately react, because sometimes the co-parents are attempting to utilize the child to cause things to happen. Number one. Number two, Patrice talks about the fact don't be in earshot. We don't know where the ear is.
Yeah.
So when we say it, then the child starts believing it. And in a case that I'm familiar with, is they were talking about how horrible the father was, and it was for a little boy. And then they turned around and they said, "You look just like your father." So all of those negative things, he felt like, well, I'm just like him. So we have to be careful of that and control. We have to regulate our own emotions because we're the adult, right? And then the last thing I wanted to mention is this: is asking what, like, let's say there's a something that happens and the co-parents said that they were going to do something. Asking the child how they feel about it and not taking our emotion and smearing it on them
Sure.
is really important. So that's
Like
it.
like like automatically assuming that they're disappointed, or
Yeah.
automatically assuming, like, how they're doing.
Yeah. Because
And
they
you
can,
wanna
yeah, they
try to stay as neutral as possible. So if a child is telling me because 'cause you're going to want to react, and you're gonna wanna stay calm, and there are some people, and I have a video on, parallel parenting, where there are some people that there is no co-parent. They're not going to co-parent with you. It's going to be parallel parenting where like as long as things are safe, what happens in their house, what happens in your house, and we're just not able because of like personality traits or different things like that. And I just wanted to highlight the fact that yes, emotional harm does harm. It does significant harm. They've studied it and they know it. It's just so much harder to prove. And there is a line, and a lot of people that I've worked with, that other parent has known where that line is and they don't cross it. So, yes. Yes. All right. Let's see. This is a question for you, Miss Johnny. Can you help us figure out ways to get our elder parents to actually listen to us? But Lisa, are you trying to make an orange and apple? Are you trying to make an orange and apple?
That's a good question. But let me say this
Okay.
is that we can only be responsible for us. And I like your question. You said make. If I'm making somebody do something, that typically means I'm forcing them to do it. And accepting someone for who they are may end up being something that we have to deal with as a boundary and say, okay, I'm in this space and I'm going to visit for my anniversary. I'm gonna say 50th. Yeah, I have my 50th my
Oh,
reunion.
class
Yeah,
reunion. I was like
my
50.
class reunion.
Like,
She said, you know
I'm
what she
I'm
said?
40.
She said, "You're not." She said, "You are not 50." That's what she was saying. I was saying my 50th, and she was saying like 50 what? 50 plus what? Anyway, so y'all saw how she treats me, right? So anyway, but my point for saying that is, I decided to pay the extra money not to stay with anybody and stay by myself because I know that that's my place of peace. I'm going to get a car, I'm going to go visit who I want to go visit, and then leave when I need to leave because I have a boundary. So that's what I would say. It's not about what you make them do, it's how
Mm.
you shift because I get a chance to control me. So I shift, and when you shift, believe me, you can please test this. When you shift and you don't respond the same way that other people expected you to, watch them shift. Be consistent.
But some people, so I think so she doesn't do the work I do.
Oh, that's true. That's true. Because some people don't shift. Is that what you're saying,
Some
Patrice? Some people
people
don't shift.
some people
But
are rigid. So
that's true.
people can be rigid like an oak tree, or they can be flexible like a palm tree. And to me, you have a growth mindset and you are
I
open
do.
to learning, you are open to other people's perspectives. And if that person is not open to those things, so sometimes you have to accept that you're not going to get the reaction that you want from that person, because then what I can do is I can go to the person that will hear me, because maybe that lady won't listen, but I have a friend that does support me. Maybe my dad does, or I have a sister, and so I can go to the person, and it's normal for me to want it from that person. But if I'm not gonna get it, because it causes pain, it triggers that wound again when you go to
Mm,
them with all the tools. So I could tell you, Lisa, I could tell you how to do it perfect, how an emotionally mature person would respond to that information. But if you are dealing with an emotionally immature person, sometimes I have to accept they don't have the capacity to hear me. They don't have the capacity, and because sometimes we're assuming that they won't do it, and maybe because of, this doesn't excuse anything, because I deserve to be heard. What I have to say is real. But going back to them again and again and not getting the reaction that I want, it can continue to wound that 5-year-old in me that really needed to hear, "I see you. I love you." And so, making sure to give space for your inner child to heal. And so that's where, so as a kid, she's gonna laugh a little. My mom told me, and I don't know if anybody else's parents told them, that if you play in the rain, you'll get sick. and this isn't like a traumatic, like, this is just, but my inner child, I love like a summer rain. I don't play in cold rain, but like a nice warm summer rain, I love going and like playing I'm in the rain. I let my son play in the snow for maybe a little bit too long because we both got sick after. But like you, we but we made memories. We had a blast playing out there in that snow. And uh Being able to just swing on a swing. Like there are ways that you can connect with your inner child,
Mhm.
that you can give yourself what you need. And so that's where, for people that are looking to someone else to listen to them, sometimes you journaling it and you reading it to your therapist. Does that, like, you getting it out and you being able to just, because then you don't have that rejection again of not being heard. I hope that's
Yeah.
helpful.
And
Yeah.
what would you tell your younger self? How would you handle it? Like when you're journaling, one of
Mhm,
the things is to go back to your younger self and deal with that and talk about, um, I just want you to know that it's going to be okay.
mhm.
I did that with the person I was dealing with on the orange shag carpet. I said, I would just want you to know that everything's gonna work out fine. Because I had to deal with the struggle that I was still dealing with in my personal life regarding that. So as you go through, because I go and get help, y'all, because my brain needs help. so
Mhm.
so when I went to get help, that's one of the things they said you need to deal with some of the things that happened. And that was one of the ways I dealt with it.
And mama, you keep talking because I need to reset. I'm
Okay.
frozen, aren't I? Are
Yes,
we
you are
frozen?
absolutely frozen.
Okay. So
I
you
get
stay
control.
you stay on and I'll be right back.
Okay, she's gonna come right back. I don't see any questions, y'all. So this is the thing that I'll say too, and I hope it encourages you. Some things that I would like to share about what we can do to help to break and to heal the inner child. One is self reflection, to acknowledge those things happen, whatever it was. And it's not that somebody has to agree with your story, what you remember. It's about you dealing with what you remember and spend time with yourself. We talked about the journaling. We haven't talked about therapy, but if we need it, get it, right?
This
And
is a great question. How
okay,
can I
good.
help my sister get unstuck from this place of needing parents to acknowledge they hurt her? And to me, because this is your sister, and maybe encouraging her to talk to somebody. So as her sister, it's your job to support her. And I don't know your situation, and I don't need to. But sometimes what I've seen is, people try to step in that parent role, and that can.
And that could cause problems as well.
Yep, yep, yep. All right. Any final thoughts?
Um, Mine is, and I know everybody doesn't necessarily think of it like this, is so when you forgive, can I encourage you to not just forgive the other person, but to forgive yourself? To forgive yourself. And so many times we talk to other people and we give them grace, but we don't give ourselves grace. So I encourage you to start talking to yourself and encouraging yourself like you would encourage other people, and give other people grace, give yourself grace, and embrace yourself, because betrayal wounds, specifically what I wrote down is betrayal. There was this book that betrayal had a baby, the baby was bitterness. You don't want to go through life bitter. You want to go through life better every day. So that's what I would say is my last statement. And then, well, I said last statement. I feel like a preacher now. I'm a close twice. I'm a close twice.
Probably 4 or 5 times.
Yeah, I'm
We'll
gonna
see.
close at least twice, y'all. Anyway, but the other thing is this: is that know that your decisions every day matter. You get a chance. every day to get up on this side of the dirt and your decisions will matter. I know other people may have felt like life may have buried them, but I would like you to shift it and think I was planted.
Mm.
I was planted in the ground. Yes, they intended whatever they intended, but I was planted in the ground and now I get a chance to grow. Does that mean I'm perfect? No. But that does mean that I get a little sun, a little rain, a little whatever to go ahead and grow. So grow where you are and
And
move forward.
I love
Go
that.
ahead.
And, how have you forgiven yourself as a parent?
Wow. That I thought we were finished. No, anyway. How
You
have I
said
forgiven?
self-forgiveness. We hadn't even talked about
Yeah.
that yet. You
Okay,
can't
so
close with a new topic.
with the anyway, so what I do is when things rise up in me and not just forgiveness as a parent, but forgiveness period, is that when things rise up in me, I ask myself questions. Was that my intent? And is this the truth? And then
Mm.
then my third question is it my truth? It may have happened, but is it my truth?
And there's a situation from my life where my intent was misconstrued, like was completely, but I can honor their truth without invalidating it because their truth of what happened, it was facts. And
Mhm.
feelings were hurt big time. And I'm not talking about my mom, I'm talking about another situation. And giving space for that other person to feel the way they felt, but I didn't have shame because I don't know that I would have done anything different because in that situation, in that space, and what I did is I didn't explain myself. So that's what I don't think we teach people how to apologize and how to accept an apology. So I might have to bring mama back on next month, like, and we might have to sit down and have these like heart to hearts because with an apology, if somebody is apologizing to me and I say, "I didn't mean it that way." Like, that's not I just invalidated everything they just said. It wasn't like that. Like, "Well, what about what I did?" And it's like, wait a minute, like, wait a minute. I was talking about how I felt." And I will tell you all, I statements work. So if I went to my mom and I said, "You did this and you did that and you," if I went there and I said that, all of her defenses would be up and she wouldn't hear a thing I said because she's not going to agree with anything that I'm saying. But if I go to her and I say, "I felt when this happened," it's like, "Oh, help me understand. Okay, cuz I remember things a little different, so help me see it from your perspective." Y'all remember that. I remember things a little different. Help me see it from your perspective. And because if she immediately came back, if I said, "This is how I felt," and she was like, "That didn't happen," that's gaslighting. Like, that's the definition of, like. And so, because sometimes I remember things wrong. There is one very real situation that like, caused emotional damage, and I'm not being like, I was like, it affected me to my core until my, like, 30s, I think. And my mom was like, "Your dad called me and he told me what happened." And I was like, but she thought but, like, and she never told I never knew about the conversation. I never knew what happened, and we were able to give each other grace. So she gives me grace, and I give her grace too. So I wouldn't change a thing about my childhood because it led me to where I am. If things had been different, if I hadn't had that horrible meeting. So y'all, so that's what I laughed a little when she started this conversation with like, "Oh, my mom, my so Miss over here. She said that her mother, my grandmother, told her, like, I'll do this and I'll make another one just like you. And I was like, that's why I ended up in that horrible counselor's office who was horrible at her job. She's the reason we don't have J and P accounting. So before that horrible meeting with that counselor, I wanted to be an accountant, just like my mom. My mom is my hero, like, she is phenomenal, like, she really is the best, and nobody's perfect. So my mom can be a hero, and then also, like, 'cause so my son is gonna have some complaints. He's gonna say, "Tuesday nights, she was 15 minutes late to feeding me because she was on YouTube." I am. He's all right 'cause he gets to stay up a little bit. He likes to he'll get to stay up a little bit later. The boy's fine. If he came and knocked on the door and was like, "I'm hungry now," I'd have to be like, "All right, y'all, bye." But, I think being able to give that open communication using those I statements, and if I use an I statement and that person can't, like, so someone that's not emotionally mature, I could go to a person and say, "Hey, I felt this way when that happened." And they could say, "I didn't do that." And they could get extremely defensive. And I've said it the best way I can. That's not on me. Like, that person, that's between them and their therapist. And there are so many people who are in therapy because some other people won't go to therapy. So, like, let's let's focus on what we can, do what we can, and figure out a way to move forward. Mama, is there anything else you wanted to say?
No, I would say that, well, I say this, Patrice is,
Mm.
um, the the wonderful thing about being a parent is that you're a parent. So if what I encourage each one of you to do is, regardless to I shouldn't I'm not going to say that. Consider the relationship that you desire with someone that has mothered you,
Oh,
who
mm.
has fed you. It may not be your natural mother, but celebrate them and enjoy the fact that they have had an impact in your life. If they are still on this side of the earth, if you can reach out to them. If they're not, just think of them and the impact that they have had. So this has been an opportunity, and I don't take it lightly. I honor Patrice. Patrice is one of the most brilliant women I know. And our relationship is different. I was not Patrice's friend when she was growing up.
But we
Okay.
were friendly though.
We
Like
were
you were,
friendly,
yeah,
but I
yeah,
wasn't your friend.
yeah, yeah.
We were friendly and we had a relationship. So that is what, going back to my statement, consider that. Consider going to someone that has mothered you and just celebrate them. Not because of what you can get back, but just give to that person. And it doesn't matter things. Words can give them their flowers, their words while they're alive.
So Mother's Day is coming up, and this is why we wanted to have this conversation. Chosen family is really important, not just the family that that I was born into, but also my chosen family. There are people in my life outside. Thank goodness it really did. It really was a community of people. My mom, she wasn't on her own. There was a really supportive community, and everybody shows love different. And so if you're ever feeling unloved, think about how does this person show their love? Because let's say I really need to spend time with people, or I really need, and even though, like, the love languages, I still like them. Like, it's not completely
I do
based on
too.
research, but I still like them. But, because I do think that there are times when our love, when I'm trying to communicate it and the person might not be receiving it. And I've definitely seen those situations happen. There are trigger wounds for people, being abandoned, and I just don't want the triggers to make you miss the glimmers, to make you miss those good things, to make you miss those positives, because the bad stuff can do is it can make me hold on to the bad and let go of the good. And so that's
Mm,
where practicing gratitude and doing all of those things like that can be really, really helpful. And I have to do it with my own child because I am not raising my child with blind obedience, but there are times that he looks at me and defies what I just told him to do, and I have to take a breath. Because he doesn't know his Gigi is real. Like he doesn't the Gigi he knows, this is not who raised me. And so, but I'm glad that we're breaking the cycle. And I love saying this, and I mean it with every breath in my body. Sometimes your healing
mm,
triggers their trauma. And what I mean by that is so in our family, we can be a little condescending and a little mean. A little. So, like, y'all see us laughing about, like, trauma, but, like, we have a dark sense of humor in our family, and there are times that that was being used towards one another in a way where people that didn't know us might think we didn't like each other when we actually love each other. And so being able to, but I actually asked. So I came out to the family because my husband wasn't raised in our family, and I was really concerned because we were getting together for a family reunion, and I was like, my husband is going to think y'all are toxic AF. Like y'all he is going to think y'all are a bunch of Looney Tunes, and I mean that with every psychology degree, but like he is not going to let our child come be around y'all if y'all keep acting like this. And the family adjusted. The
yes, we
family
did.
nobody was like, "Oh, you think you're too good for us," or "You," like, just because I'm asked saying, "Hey, like, can we not use the four-letter words before, like, 8 p.m.? Like, just can we wait to drink until, like, a little later?" Or, like, we set up all of these boundaries, and everybody and it was a phenomenal time. We had a blast. I did have to tell them to go to bed one time because the they were staying up all night. They were staying up way too late. But, like, to have a family. So we are not in the same house. So, like, she's south of me right now. I don't tell y'all where I live for real. I got a weird text message tonight. I don't know. Yeah, I don't tell y'all where. So I am, but so she yeah, so we are not in the same house. We are yes. We truly like this is our authentic relationship, and I'll have to do a post where y'all give us some ideas of what y'all want us to talk about. There is a whole episode on like there's a whole thing on what's the word on the podcast. So legacy moments, they're on my channel. There is a link called episode called is on we click on podcast. My brain has already went to dinner. Once you select that, we have a ton of resources that we have talked about for the past. We started it in 2021.
Yeah, we have like 50 some episodes.
And they start out the quality is not this good. We've
No,
gotten better.
but the interaction is
It's the same
amazing. It is hilarious.
because
Us
we're
in the
actually in
same
the
room.
same room.
Oh my gosh. It's just amazing. Us in the same room is just way too much. So, but yeah. Thank
All
you,
right.
baby. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you for being here. Y'all, when I share and when talking about apologies, so mama, I would not have asked you to do anything different. Anytime you hear me talk about my childhood or talk about things, I am trying to do it from the perspective of helping other people maybe do things a little different. I learned so much from you. I gained so much from you. I appreciate you. I love you so much.
I love you
And
too.
chat, y'all are the best. And I hope y'all enjoy the rest of your day. Bye.